Rob, I have something for you to listen to right here live on air. It's not live for the people, but it's live for you.
Go on. Oh, I know what this is.
You know what that is?
Oh. Is that Coke Zero infused with Oreo?
Yes, that is the satisfying sound of Oreo Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is what it says, limited edition. And you know what? It's described on the can as fizzy cookie flavored. And that is accurate. It tastes just like an Oreo.
And right, do you want to hear how limited?
Which is a little weird.
You know, it says limited edition. So
yeah,
you think, okay, it might be a little bit hard to find. I have had confirmation multiple times from Ben and Tibbs in the Relay Discord. They've sent me pictures of this product in UK shops. There's two chains. There's B&M and the Co-op. These are chains in the UK. And on Saturday, I had a bunch of errands to run, doing, boring adult things like you do. And I took that opportunity to go to 3 different B&M stores. Could not find any. And then I saw a picture in the Discord. And said, "Oh, they're in the Co-op." And I'm like, right, okay, I'm going to the Co-op. No, they didn't have any either. So, sorry. I have put in a lot of effort to try and get this product. I didn't even like Coke Zero. And Oreos are fine. They're nice enough. But that's what I wanted to do for the people, for the listeners, because that's we're professionals.
Yeah, and once you get in your mind that you have to have this, it's very hard not to just go on the quest, the vision quest for an Oreo Coke. And I will explain to you exactly how much effort I put into this, Rob, which was 0 effort, because I was sitting here, I think it was last Saturday, and my son and Jennifer walked over to the local pharmacy to pick up a prescription, and he was looking around and he saw it and he said, "You want me to get this for you for your show?" And I was like, yes. He got a 6-pack of these mini cans of Oreo Coke. And I think we lucked out because we live in a college town full of kids in their late teens and early 20s. And this big pharmacy is right off of campus and has snacks galore. So he was looking around and found these Cokes there. And it's actually, I don't know. It's not bad. It's not bad. And it strangely does taste like an Oreo, which is okay. It's not bad as you might think it would be.
Yeah. I really thought, I'm going to go to, there's 3 B&M stores within probably 10 minutes of my house. So I drove to all 3 of them while I was doing my errands. And I thought, this is brilliant. I'm definitely going to be able to get one. And at this point, I already knew you had some. So
I immediately texted you when I got it. Yeah. And I also had something. I had something else too, which we can talk about, I guess.
But yeah, I was on, there was talk of maybe if Ben could have got some, because Ben lives relatively locally to me, if we can do like a dead drop halfway between our houses, and he was going to bring me some. And I thought that's probably taking it a little bit too far. I'm going to buy a can of this if I see it at some point. But unfortunately, I failed to bring it to this particular episode. But I'm glad you were able to get some.
All right. Well, it's good enough that if you can get your hands on it, I think it's not going to disgust you. I would go for it. The other thing that I had from the same trip to the pharmacy was I shared with my son a bottle of Beetlejuice Fanta, which is bright green, looks a little bit, again, like the kind of liquid you put in your windshield wipers. And it tasted like sour apple mixed with, I think it had like cinnamon and vanilla in it too, maybe. It had kind of that candy apple sort of flavor to it, not just apple, but candy apple. And it had a crazy aftertaste that stuck around for a very long time. I do not recommend it.
So yeah, it's interesting. After you had told me about this, and while I was on my quest to find the Oreo Coke.
Yep.
I also saw Fanta branded exactly like the picture that you sent me, except all they've done in the UK is just rebranded Apple Fanta, and they're just selling it. Like there's no flavor difference to the normal Fanta that you can already buy.
I am not familiar with regular Apple Fanta, but this definitely somewhere on the label, I think it advertised what it had these other spices and flavors.
Yeah, what you sent me is definitely not a regular flavor, but in the UK they'd just been a bit lazy about it, and it was just a regular drink. I was not impressed, so I did not buy that one.
All right. Well, that's it for the snack corner. Here we are having our snacks. I'm going to continue drinking my Coke while we enjoy the show. I'll try not to make too much noise as we record, but yeah, it's tasty.
That's all right. I have a, let me just read the label, Ultra Strawberry Dreams Monster Energy Drink. So...
Oh wow! What are you doing having that? It's the evening. That's going to keep you up tonight.
No, it's not. I've got a young child. I'm always tired. It doesn't matter what I do.
That's true. You know what? I feel like I have a young child, and it's called Mac Stories. I got up this morning at like 3:30 in the morning to work on some of our review stuff because Apple, in its infinite wisdom, decided to drop 4 OS updates on us on one day. It's actually more than that, but we only wrote about 4 of them because tvOS just was, kind of a sad little update. So we didn't write about that this year.
No, it was funny. Somebody said to me, I said, "Oh, is there going to be a tvOS review or Mac Stories?" And I went, "I don't think so, but also what's even in it?" And I looked it up and it's like, oh, it's got support for 21:9 movies. And like, that's it.
It's not even in there. That's the thing is they deferred a bunch of the stuff. Even that there wasn't a long list and most of it was deferred. I think the only thing that's in there are insights, which is like a little bit like the Amazon X-ray thing.
Sure.
But it only works with, I think, Apple TV Plus streaming shows. So yeah, there is virtually nothing. And so we didn't bother writing about that. But at some point, if it does get the rest of the stuff, maybe we'll have a story on the site by segment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, if that's all that's in Apple TV, I could write that review. No problem. It's like X-ray, but it's on Apple TV.
Yeah. And there's this. Yeah, it's like, it would be like 3 or 4 bullet points would be all it would be. So it was pretty thin year when you think about it, even on iOS and Mac OS, because all the Apple Intelligence stuff is yet to drop. And I know people it's funny, I've been getting there's this vibe online right now where people are upset that other people are being critical of Apple for having kind of shipping a phone that doesn't have the Apple Intelligence in it yet. And I don't know. I mean, I think people are right to be critical. I think this is it was a shift in direction for the company and they weren't ready. And maybe they'll be ready soon, but they're not going to really be ready soon because what's coming in October is not what people really want. What people really want is to be able to talk to their phone and have it do stuff for them. And that's going to be mark my words, that'll be right before WWDC 2025.
Yeah, totally agree. Agree.
I don't know. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, that's what I'm turning my attention to is writing about Apple Intelligence. And it's not super impressive yet, to be honest, but I like to reserve my judgment until I actually see the final thing, and it's not final yet. So the jury's still out on that.
Yeah, definitely. Should we do a quick update on the St. Jude fundraiser? We should because you guys are killing it. Yeah, so we hit our goal. I don't know. It must have been about a week ago now, I think. Yeah, it was probably about a week ago. And so our goal was just over $12,500. And we are now at 14,292 as of recording.
Wow. And that goal, you picked it because that brought your 2-year total up to what, 25?
Yeah, so it was a bit of both. So there was one target that was $25,000 overall over the 2 years. And then the actual goal that we'd set was 1 cent more than last year. Because I thought, if we can beat last year, that's good.
I see.
So,
Right.
but yeah, we've absolutely smashed it this year. I'm not sure. I think that there's a lot of enthusiasm for it. And people love stickers as well. These are not limited.
Of course
either.
they do. Those are good stickers. You worked hard on that sticker.
Yeah, like listen to people. These aren't limited. Like you can come donate. We'll make sure you get your stickers. We'll ship them anywhere in the world. They might take a while, depending on where you are, but they will get to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the stickers, to be honest, like just for myself, because as you say, I spent a lot of time on the Ruminate one, and Adam spent a lot of time on his one. So, but yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes again, as always.
Do you have the stickers delivered to you yet?
We do not. So what happened was last year, we kind of guessed how many we needed.
Oh, I guess you got to kind of know.
We ended up with nearly 100 more than we needed. So this year we are just waiting until the campaign's over, so we know how many we need.
Yeah, because those things get delivered pretty fast. I know when I've made stickers in the past, it's pretty fast process.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it will a few days, maybe a week, and then we'll get them shipped out pretty much as soon as they arrive. So. Adam's got a pretty good system with labels and lovely envelopes so that they don't get bent and stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on reaching your goal, and people should be sure to check out the link in the show notes because there's still time to donate. And, I think you should donate to this campaign. I mean, it still all goes to St. Jude, but, use our link for Robb's campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, very good. We should talk, I think, about my least favorite technology on the web, Robb, which is, well, it's not really so much a web technology, but EPUBs, YAML, and Pandoc. Oh my gosh. We do these for the club, and maybe I should semi-pitch the club, but we do these reviews that we write, these long-form reviews, as ebooks that work in Apple Books and other e-readers. And the way we do that is kind of interesting. It's a script that Brett Terpstra wrote years ago, and we've modified it a little bit over the years. But it's a combination. It's at least part of it's written in Ruby, and it takes the markdown files that we create for the reviews. It pulls all the URLs for the images and downloads the images locally. Then it applies some CSS and saves it all as an EPUB formatted file. And the way it knows what to do is that there's some YAML, which is a markup language that you find at the top of some markdown documents. I mean, that's one of the things that Obsidian uses for a bunch of different things, like tagging and the like. And the YAML basically tells the script where what the CSS document is, what the cover image is, where to find all the pieces and bits, and then deals with all the credits and things that we have in the document as well. And the problem is that it's a great system when it works, but the YAML is super, super sensitive to formatting to the point where, like, God forbid somebody put an ampersand in their credits. It's always the credits where you're like saying, thanks to my family and all this stuff, that breaks it. Because, for instance, I learned this time around that Federico's credits, where he has kind of a lead-in sentence to the people he's thanking, was one sentence. It didn't have a period. It just had a colon at the end. But a couple of other people's had multiple sentences, and the periods just completely threw it off. Instead of putting that part of it in single quotes, I had to put it in double quotes, because there's different ways to escape some of the characters so that the YAML doesn't process them as I guess commands. And it's very esoteric the way it works in this particular document. And I've gotten used to it because I've done it for so many years. But at times what I end up doing when I get stumped and can't find the problem, because it's always like maybe there's a stray quotation mark somewhere or some kind of Unicode character that it chokes on or something like that. What I end up doing is I end up adding the credits line by line and rerunning it in a kind of a debugging manner. And then I find the line where it breaks, and then I can kind of pinpoint it and figure it out and fix it. But by the end of this, I end up with like 50, 60 ebooks in Apple Books that I eventually go through and delete them all. But it's just a lot.
Yeah. YAML can be. I mean, my whole site runs. Every single page has got YAML at the top. And yeah, I mean, if you're not escaping things and, like you say, multiple sentences, things like that, you just end up in an absolute mess of all sorts of things. Like, in theory, you should be able to just validate it and it will point out where the problems are. But in reality, we know that that's not necessarily how it always works.
Right. And I mean, at its most basic, it's a very simple system of just key value pairs, right? But the thing that's complicated about this is that some of the values are multiple sentences long with various characters and stuff. It's not just like a tagging system where it's like, key and value and it's like one word or something. It's like full-blown sentences. And so, and for me, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, it's just not something that I do very often. I do it once a year. So it ends up being a pain. And this year we had to change the CSS too, because Federico had changed some of the info boxes or call outs that he did in his review, which I know you helped him with on the web version. And then CSS is just not a thing that I do. So we got some help. Finn, actually, my son Finn helped us with that. It was very easy because all it was taking the old info box and copying that CSS and then, using the hex color codes that you gave him and the SVGs to duplicate those, but with a slightly different look. But, it's like these things that you don't think of right at the beginning. And then all of a sudden it's like the weekend before and you got to get it done. And it just becomes a whole thing.
Yeah. So firstly, people should go and read the reviews because, you've put Federico, Jonathan's got his WatchOS one up. Go read them because you put a lot of effort into them and they're very good.
Thank you.
And yeah, the EPUBs, the ebooks that you speak of are for club members. So we can put a link to the club. You can sign up, you can get those. You can, if you really fancy it, you can go back and get last year's iOS review or a few years before that. Like, they're all there.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty nice record of how these OSs have changed over time. Federico pointed out to me that as of tomorrow, when we publish the Vision OS review, we'll have 51 downloadable ebooks or other items on the club, which is a lot because we've been doing it for a long time. And just to make sure it's clear to everybody how it all works is that if you are there are the three tiers to the club. There's Club Mac Stories, Club Mac Stories Plus, and Club Mac Stories Premier. And if you're a club member, the base level, you get Federico's iOS and iPadOS 18 review. If you're a Plus or Premier member, you get my review in an ebook form, along with Jonathan's and Devin's, and a tips book that Federico is doing of kind of tips and tricks for iOS 18. Plus, this year, he commissioned artwork for his review by Scout Wilkinson, who is the illustrator who did the Comfort Zone show art for that podcast on Mac Stories. She's a wonderful artist, and she did these great illustrations for his review that are available to Plus and Premier members as wallpapers and as a screensaver that James Thompson put together, which, if you're familiar with the screensavers that Relay has done for St. Jude, which we talked about before, similar type of thing, took these videos, which are the videos happen to be, all the artwork was done in Procreate, and it creates a video of the art being created. So it's from the very first stroke and the rough outline sketch to the finished product. Every stroke is recorded and turned into a movie, and you can make that a screensaver. And I love watching these because I just like seeing someone else's creative process, especially as someone who can't draw at all, that to see someone kind of put it together, it's pretty neat and instructive. So that's my wee little pitch for Club Mac Stories. We would appreciate it because, as I think Federico and I explained last week on App Stories, one of the things that we're trying to do, and this is very much in the theme of Ruminate and the things that Rob and I have talked about over the years, is that we want to make Mac Stories a place where we work with a much broader and bigger group of creative people, whether it's illustrators like Scout, or it's musicians like the people who've done some of the music for us for the podcasts, or it's writers like all the people who've started writing at Mac Stories this year. All of that. We want to do more of that, but to do more of that, we really do need the club to grow and be be successful so that we can expand that, because that's really our goal. And right now, as we'll talk about in a second with another website, it is a tough time for advertising. So the more people who join the club, the better. And we do our best to kind of give back and give everybody as much value as we possibly can as club members. So it's just not like a donation to us. It's actually, you get something back for it. So hopefully we do a good job of returning that value to people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I said this before when we spoke about this, that the Discord's always where I go if I've got problems with, not life problems, but, iOS, Mac OS, that kind of thing.
Therapy.
Yeah, no, I saved that for this show. But
Me too.
The Discord is always, somebody's always there with an answer or a solution, or it's, aside from all the just general, chatting and discussions and stuff, like, it's so good for that. I appreciate it every single time when I ask something.
Yeah, there are a lot of really smart and helpful people in there, and that has been like the biggest success for us. It was we hemmed and hawed and worried for years about running a community and what that might mean, and it's turned out that it was an absolutely wonderful thing, and we should have done it even earlier. But it's grown, and it's a nice group of people. So that's one of the other perks of being a Plus or Premier member.
Yeah, definitely.
So Rob, we have two other short topics. One is, I just wanted to pour one out for Touch Arcade, because they announced a day ago as we recorded this that they're shutting down. And, it's not super surprising. Touch Arcade was a mobile gaming based website that has been around it's actually been around a little longer than Mac Stories. It started in 2008, and it actually was one of the, is a sibling publication of Mac Rumors. It was started by Arnold Kim and the crew at Mac Rumors. And Eli Hodap, who was the editor-in-chief for a long time, I got to know him at the Games Developer Conference, I don't know, it's been like 5 or 6 years ago. And he was a great guy, still is a great guy, but he's not there anymore. He left when they were having financial troubles, at least before the pandemic. And they did a Patreon, they did a bunch of other things. They kind of, cut back, and it seemed like they were doing pretty well, and they decided that they had to close it down, which has been an unfortunate thing that we've seen with a lot of websites this year. Both big and small have had a real struggle with advertising revenue the last couple of years. And I loved Touch Arcade because it did such a great job of covering mobile gaming. It was initially very much iOS focused, but they branched out into Android and the Switch and Steam Deck and all other platforms that were all basically mobile. And they're going to be missed, because I linked to them a lot because they had some great writers over there.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm not sure. I'm sure we've spoken about this on the show before, but I briefly wrote for App Advice many, many years ago. And, I remember Touch Arcade being around at the same time. And, a lot of the time we'd end up covering the same things and comparing notes and things like that. And yeah, as you say, unfortunately, it's just one of these things where it's so hard at the moment. And then they call this out in the article that, yeah, they could have put the obnoxious clickbait adverts at the end, and maybe they would have clawed back some of the money that they need to make to keep it running, but then that's not a nice experience for people, then people don't want to read it, and it's kind of a vicious circle. So yeah, it really is a shame.
Yeah, it really is. Someone on Mastodon asked me if I thought it was because of competition from AI, and I don't think it really is. I mean, I think that is a factor, and that's a growing factor in a lot of the struggles of websites, and probably will grow over time. But right now, I think the problem has more to do with Google and the fact that a lot of companies were designed around Google AdSense and the algorithms of Google search, and that just isn't sending the traffic or the clicks to the ads like it used to. It's just Google has changed the way it operates, and that's really impacting a lot of sites. Now, like we've had our own struggles at times at Mac Stories. We've definitely seen a dip in ad revenue in general, but fortunately, we're not beholden to that kind of display advertising because we don't do that. And so we haven't had that same impact. There are sites, I know Retro Dodo, which is one that covers retro gaming, saw their ad traffic drop by like 90% over the course of like three or 4 months, which is just unbelievable. And you can't sustain a business with that, 90% of your revenue dropping off.
No, definitely not. But they're keeping the site up. At least, they've
yes, they are.
They said for the foreseeable future. So I hope that means that it's not going to disappear, because, there's a lot of good stuff there. And even when I'm searching for, game reviews, that kind of thing, it always, tends to pop up, and I'm, oh yeah, Touch Arcade.
Yep.
So yeah,
and it's a good historical record. Yeah, it's a good historical record of that stuff too. And I think they're going to continue to do the podcast, which I think Eli is on. I haven't listened to it in a while, but it's a pretty good podcast. And they said they might try to do some occasional articles for Patreon members, but the Patreon was designed to keep the site going. They're going to keep it around and shift it to supporting the podcast and maybe some occasional other perks like bonus articles and stuff. So it'd be good if they could keep at least some aspect of it going, because it's a good group of writers doing a lot of interesting work.
Yeah, definitely. So the final thing on our topic list, and I was trying to remember how much we spoke about this. I'm sure we said last episode that I had pre-ordered Astro Bot. Did I mention the Astro Bot controller last time? I don't think I did.
I don't think you did on the show, but I know that you got one, right?
So I think it must have been the day after the show, I think. And somebody said, "Oh, are you getting the controller?" And I didn't know about the controller. So this was when I messaged you and said, "John, what game websites do you follow? Because I'm missing all this stuff." And of course, this was announced months ago, this controller, and it was sold out everywhere. And then I had the page open for a Smith's, which is a toy and game shop in the UK. And it was sold out, but I left the page open, and then I happened to refresh, and they had one, and I could order it for delivery. So I just ordered it. And yeah, so like, I don't know I'm not sure how much you've seen of this controller, but like the controller is the spaceship that you have in the game, and I felt like an absolute child, because I'm sat there playing it, and I said to my wife, I said to Jess, I said, "Look, it's the controller is in the game," and of course, she just rolled her eyes and went back to reading her book.
Right,
but yeah, so I got the controller because I needed another controller anyway, but that's neither here nor there. The game is so good. It's so much fun.
Gosh. I didn't play it last weekend. I played it the first weekend it came out because I was in the throes of finishing my Mac OS review, and I had to have a break. I was by myself that weekend. The rest of my family was traveling. And so Friday night and Saturday night, I took a couple of hours each night to play Astro Bot. I haven't played it since, and I'm dying to get back because it is so, so good.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I'm not sure I would have expected anything less, because Astro's Playroom, which came with the PS5, was amazing. But this like really expands on that in a big way. And I've unlocked the outfit so I can dress as Jack from Jak and Daxter. So I'm pretty happy now. I can just play as that now.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, it's if you've ever played Astro's Playroom, is that what it was called? I think that's what it was called.
Yes, it is, yeah.
It was essentially like a demo game. It was very short, but very good, and everybody really liked it, and it showed off a lot of the a lot of the features, particularly of the DualSense controller with the rumble and all that kind of thing. And this does a lot of that too. I mean, a lot of the same mechanics are in the game, but it's obviously much more expanded, and it uses the speaker in the controller as well as coming from the TV and the haptic feedback, and it's just a great platforming game. It's like a lot of people have said, oh, this is Sony's Mario, and in a lot of ways it is. It's like they now have their mascot, and it's a really nicely done 3D platformer that's just delightful to play. I mean, it's really the only way to say it. I mean, it's not super hard at the beginning, which I think is good because it really eases you into it, but it does get challenging at points.
Yeah. And I suspect I'm probably a little bit further through than you are.
I only got through to the first boss, I think, is all
right. Yeah, so I think on the third world now. But there are additional, I guess you'd call them like little sort of mini challenge levels. And they start off relatively easy and then they go up and up, and yeah, like the difficulty really ramps up. Not to the point that I'm annoyed by it or frustrated. Like it's enough that you can still enjoy it, but yeah, they definitely bump that up once you get into the later worlds.
Yeah, that's definitely what I've heard, because I know Brendan Bigley had told me I think he's basically completed it. Who's my co-host on NPC, but yeah, I want to get back to it. But the Plucky Squire just came out today as we record this, which I really want to get. And before you know it, the Zelda game will be out too. So it's going to be a very Switch heavy fall for me, I think. I was talking to Federico about this not long ago, and there's just a lot of the stuff that I want to play that's going to be on the Switch. Although I think Plucky Squire, although it is on the Switch, I think I might play it on Steam.
Yeah, I was just looking. It appears to be on the Switch, PlayStation, and Steam. Oh, and Xbox as well. It's basically everywhere. So that's good.
Yeah, it is basically everywhere. This is a game that's been anticipated Plucky Squire's been anticipated for a couple of years now. The person who did the artwork used to work at Game Freak on Pokemon games, and it's just an art style that I absolutely love.
Yeah, it looks like they've got a deluxe physical edition coming out next year as well. And you know I love a physical.
You do. You love your physical games. And you know what? I think that you're onto something. I kind of regret that the vast majority of my Switch collection is digital. I mean, especially because I share an account. Now that we have multiple Switches in our house and they're all on the same account, and the whole primary secondary thing is such a pain. Like my son, who I put him on the primary for a while because he was at college and it was just easier for him that way. But then he left his Switch at school in storage and was on the West Coast all summer. And I was coming to England this summer and wanted to bring my Switch and make myself the primary to make my life easier, but I couldn't because his Switch is like physically sitting in a storeroom somewhere in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's not helpful.
So,
yeah. Well, we'll put a pin in this for the next episode, because what we didn't discuss was the PS5 Pro, and I have some thoughts about that and physical games, but I think we can save that for next episode.
Yeah, let's do that, because I think that's a good topic. I haven't given it a ton of thought yet, but I saw the PS5 Pro announced and I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and thought, who's going to pay that money for that thing?
Yeah.
We'll save the details for later.
Yes, we'll save it for next episode.
All right, great. Talk to you later, Rob.
Switch now.